Quick breakfast sounds simple. Pour some cereal in a bowl, splash in the milk, and you're done. For decades, cereal has been the go-to option for busy parents rushing kids off to school, for retirees wanting something light in the morning, and for anyone who doesn't have time to cook. It was sold as wholesome, affordable, and even heart healthy. The truth? That same box on the shelf today often hides more sugar than a candy bar and fewer whole grains than you'd ever expect. What started as a quick solution for families has slowly turned into a billion-dollar market where brands cut corners, swap quality for flashy colors, and load every spoonful with preservatives. The result is a breakfast that can spike your blood sugar, crash your energy, and drain your grocery budget, all before noon. So today we're breaking down the cereal brands you should avoid first, the ones that traded real nutrition for marketing tricks. And then we'll highlight the few brands that still respect your health and your wallet. Because the choice of what you pour into that bowl each morning can decide whether breakfast sets you up for the day or slowly wears you down. Avoid number 1, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. Let's start with one of the most famous cereal boxes in American history, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. Launched in 1952, this brand quickly became a breakfast icon, thanks to its mascot, Tony the Tiger, shouting, "They're great!" on Saturday morning TV. For many families, pouring a bowl of Frosted Flakes was more than just eating. It was part of growing up in post-war America, where convenience foods felt modern and exciting. Parents believed they were giving kids a fun but still wholesome breakfast. But here's the reality in 2025. That same bowl is mostly sugar. A single serving packs around 12 grams of sugar before you even add milk. Compare that to what nutritionists now recommend for children, and you'll see it's dangerously close to the upper daily limit in just one bowl. The flakes themselves, made from highly processed corn, stripped of most fiber, then sprayed with a sugar coating that crunches but offers little lasting energy. Kellogg's has also faced criticism for aggressive marketing to children, keeping the cartoon tiger alive, even as health experts push for less sugar in kids' diets. Frosted Flakes still sells millions of boxes, not because of quality, but because of nostalgia and branding. The problem is that many shoppers assume it's just cereal, when in reality it's closer to dessert. Over time, this shift from whole-grain cornflakes to sugar-heavy flakes has left Frosted Flakes a shadow of its original promise. Instead of fueling mornings, it leaves kids bouncing off the walls and adults feeling sluggish by mid-morning. For retirees on fixed incomes, paying for sugar disguised as breakfast is simply not worth it. So the question is, do you keep buying Frosted Flakes for the childhood memories? Or have you already moved on to better choices? Avoid number 2, General Mills Lucky Charms. Few cereals spark as much childhood nostalgia as General Mills Lucky Charms. Introduced in 1964, it stood out with its colorful marshmallows, hearts, stars, horseshoes, clovers, and blue moons. For generations of kids, the box wasn't just food, or it was fun. Parents saw it as a way to make mornings magical, and commercials promised a whimsical start to the day. Fast forward to today, and the magic has faded. Lucky Charms is still bright and playful, but the ingredient list tells a different story. The cereal contains over 12 grams of sugar per serving, artificial dyes that give those marshmallows their neon glow, and very little fiber to actually fuel a morning. In recent years, reports of allergic reactions tied to certain flavoring agents even raised concerns about safety. Nutritionists often call it a dessert in disguise, and the numbers back them up. What's worse, the cereal capitalizes on nostalgia and kid-friendly marketing, but offers no meaningful nutrition for the price. Boxes often run $4 or $5, meaning families are paying for sugar and branding rather than substance. For retirees, that's wasted grocery money. For parents, it's teaching kids that breakfast should taste like candy. General Mills has tried to defend the brand by adding whole grain labels and small vitamin fortification. But those efforts can't mask the overwhelming sugar load. In the end, the magical marshmallows are more about marketing than morning fuel. So as you think about cereals that once felt special, keep in mind how much they've changed and why some boxes today might be better left on the shelf. Avoid number 3, Post Fruity Pebbles. Post launched Fruity Pebbles in 1971, tying it directly to the beloved Flintstones cartoon. Kids across America woke up to Fred and Barney on the box and the promise of a colorful, crunchy breakfast that felt like Saturday morning fun. Every day, it was a small, bright, and cheerful, exactly what parents thought would make mornings easier. But beneath the nostalgia is a cereal that's hardly changed, and not in a good way. Fruity Pebbles is essentially sugar mixed with rice flour and sprayed with artificial dyes. A single serving comes with nearly 12 grams of sugar and barely 1 gram of fiber. The bright colors may catch a child's eye, but they come from artificial food colorings like Yellow 5 and Red 40, which have long been debated for their impact on children's health and behavior. Even nutrition experts often place Fruity Pebbles on the worst cereals list, pointing out how little it offers in terms of real nutrition. The rush of sugar spikes energy, but it crashes quickly, leaving kids hungry again before lunch. For adults, it's even worse. There's no lasting fuel for the day, just empty calories. At around $4 a box, shoppers are essentially paying candy prices for candy in a cereal bowl. Yes, Fruity Pebbles still has a loyal fan base, but mostly for nostalgia and novelty. For families trying to stretch a grocery budget or avoid sugar overload, it's one of the least practical choices in the cereal aisle. So as tempting as those rainbow-colored pieces look, it's worth asking. Maybe some classics are better remembered than eaten. Avoid number 4. Kellogg's Corn Pops. Back to an American kitchen in the late 1980s, a Saturday morning cartoon blaring on the TV, and a kid sitting cross-legged on the floor with a big bowl of Corn Pops. Back then, this cereal was marketed as the Golden Puff, crunchy, light, and a little sweet. Parents thought they were giving their kids a fun but still simple corn-based breakfast, and kids loved the playful ads that had made Corn Pops look irresistible. Fast forward to now, and the story is different. Kellogg's Corn Pops are no longer the mildly sweet corn nuggets that many remember. Today's formula leans heavily on corn syrup, added sugar, and processed corn flour. What once felt airy and wholesome has turned into a cereal dominated by empty calories, with barely any fiber and virtually no real nutrition. A single serving brings more than 10 grams of sugar, but not the staying power to keep anyone full until lunch. The brand has also faced criticism for relying on genetically modified corn, a far cry from the farm-fresh imagery in its ads. Combined with preservatives and artificial flavorings, the Corn Pops of 2025 feel like a faded memory of the original product. And while the yellow box still holds nostalgic value for many shoppers, the cereal itself no longer matches the promise of its golden past. At nearly $5 a box in some stores, buyers are paying for branding more than breakfast. Retirees looking for value and families trying to avoid another sugar crash may find Corn Pops an expensive trip down memory lane. So when you pass by that bright yellow box, it's worth remembering. Sometimes the taste of childhood doesn't survive the test of time. Avoid number 5, General Mills Cocoa Puffs. An American breakfast table in the late 1960s, a kid begging their parents for Cocoa Puffs after seeing the famous mascot, Sonny the Cuckoo Bird, bouncing wildly on TV. Parents caved because it seemed fun, and the promise of chocolate milk with breakfast felt like a treat no one could resist. For decades, Cocoa Puffs became a symbol of childhood indulgence, cereal that turned your milk into dessert. But here's the catch. In 2020, Cocoa Puffs is less about nourishment and more about marketing. A single cup delivers nearly 13 grams of sugar, almost no fiber, and barely 2 grams of protein. That's not a breakfast that fuels the morning. It's a sugar bomb disguised in crunchy little puffs. While General Mills still markets it as a whole grain option, the actual benefit is drowned out by the overload of corn syrup and cocoa powder that barely resembles real chocolate. Health experts often rank Cocoa Puffs among the least nutritious cereals on store shelves. What once felt like a fun treat for kids has become an everyday trap for families who grab the box out of habit. And at $4 to $5 a box, it's not only a poor health choice, but also a poor financial one, especially for retirees or families trying to stretch grocery budgets. The nostalgia is powerful. Many still remember the jingles, the mascot, and the joy of chocolate milk at the bottom of the bowl. But nostalgia can't change the fact that this cereal fails to provide the basics of a balanced meal. It leaves kids bouncing with a sugar high and adults drain before mid-morning. So next time you see Sonny the Cuckoo Bird, remember, not every memory belongs on today's breakfast table. Of course, not every cereal brand lost its way. While many classics have drifted into the land of sugar and empty calories, a few still hold on to their roots, keeping real grains, balanced flavors, and enough nutrition to actually start the day right. These are the cereals that prove breakfast doesn't have to be candy in a box. Worth trying number 1, Cheerios, General Mills. Back to the 1940s, when breakfast tables across America were first introduced to a small, round oat cereal called Cheerios. Launched in 1941, it quickly stood out as something different, simple, lightly toasted, and marketed as a heart-healthy choice. Parents loved it because it wasn't drenched in sugar, and kids enjoyed its crunch and the way it floated perfectly in milk. Decades later, Cheerios has held on to much of that reputation. Unlike many cereals that shifted to heavier sugar formulas, the original yellow box remains one of the few mainstream cereals made primarily from whole grain oats. A serving comes with about 3 grams of fiber, low sugar, and a clean ingredient list compared to its candy-like rivals. It's been endorsed for years as part of a cholesterol-lowering diet, which explains why you'll see it in both family kitchens and retirement homes. Beyond health, Cheerios is versatile. Parents still serve it as a first finger food for toddlers. Adults pour it for a quick, light breakfast. Some people even use it in snack mixes or baking. At around $3 or $4 a box, it's also affordable, making it one of the most budget-friendly cereals that still delivers real value. In a market crowded with sugary nostalgia, Cheerios manages to stay relevant by staying simple. It's proof that not every brand has abandoned quality. So when you're walking the cereal aisle, this little yellow box is one worth considering if you want breakfast that works as hard as you do. Worth trying number 2, Kashi Go. Lean flashback to the late 1980s, when a new wave of health-conscious shoppers began demanding more from their food than just convenience. That's when Kashi entered the scene, positioning itself as a natural, wholesome alternative in a cereal aisle dominated by sugar and cartoons. Its Go Lean line became a favorite for adults who wanted a breakfast that felt modern, nutritious, and satisfying. Unlike the bright boxes designed to hook kids, Kashi Go Lean built its identity on clean ingredients and higher nutrition. Instead of loading every bite with sugar, it focused on whole grains, plant-based proteins, and fiber. A single serving often provides 10 to 12 grams of protein and 8 to 10 grams of fiber, numbers that put most mainstream cereals to shame. For anyone trying to manage weight, avoid sugar crashes, or simply stay full until lunch, that balance makes a real difference. Price-wise, Kashi is on the higher end at about $5 to $6 a box, but it earns its keep. For retirees budgeting their meals or families looking for healthier staples, the cost per serving actually stretches far when you realize it helps prevent mid-morning snacking. And compared to paying for medical bills caused by poor diet, it feels like a smart trade-off. Kashi Go Lean also adapts well beyond the cereal bowl, sprinkled on yogurt, blended into trail mix, or used as a crunchy topping. It's the kind of cereal that proves breakfast can be both quick and functional without sacrificing health. So if you're looking for something that keeps you steady and satisfied, Go Lean still delivers on the promise it made decades ago. Worth trying number 3, Barbara's Puffins. Think back to the early 1970s when natural food stores were just beginning to pop up in small American towns. Shoppers looking for something different from the mainstream brands discovered Barbara's Puffins, crunchy, square-shaped bites that promised a more wholesome take on breakfast. Without cartoon mascots or flashy colors, the cereal gained quiet popularity among families who wanted something simple and less artificial. What sets Puffins apart today is that it has stayed true to those roots. Made with whole grains and non-GMO ingredients, it avoids the artificial dyes and heavy sugar load found in most mainstream cereals. A typical serving has about 5 grams of sugar, less than half of what you'll find in cereals like Lucky Charms or Cocoa Puffs, along with a good dose of fiber. That balance makes it a cereal that fuels the morning rather than just creating a sugar rush. Another strength is versatility. Puffin stays crunchy in milk, works great mixed with yogurt, and can even be eaten by the handful as a dry snack. Nutritionists often recommend it as a better option for families with children, because it delivers the crunch and fun shape without the candy-level sweetness. Price-wise, Puffins usually runs around $4 or $5 a box, often found at stores like Whole Foods, Kroger, or online. It's not the cheapest option in the aisle, but many shoppers see it as a worthwhile upgrade, especially compared to paying for cereals that don't satisfy. In a world where many cereals have chased after sugar and gimmicks, Puffins feels refreshingly straightforward. It's one of the rare boxes that still delivers on the promise of real breakfast. From the sugar-coated classics to the brightly colored marshmallow boxes, breakfast cereals in America have gone through a transformation, and not always for the better. Brands like Frosted Flakes, Lucky Charms, Fruity Pebbles, Corn Pops, and Cocoa Puffs remind us how marketing and nostalgia can overshadow the reality of what's inside. Sugar-heavy formulas with little real nutrition. But not every story ends that way. Cheerios has managed to stay a trusted staple for generations. Kashi Go Lean proves that higher protein and fiber can make mornings stronger. And Barber's Puffins shows that a simpler, more natural approach still has a place at the table. These brands demonstrate that you don't have to give up taste or convenience to make a better choice. At the end of the day, the cereal you pour into your bowl sets the tone for everything that follows. Choose wisely, and breakfast can be light, energizing, and affordable. Choose poorly, and it's just sugar dressed up as tradition. So which box will you reach for tomorrow morning? Share your thoughts below, hit like if this helped, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the foods we trust every day. Because even from a cereal box, breakfast should still taste real.